It's fall, y'all! And you know what that means. It's time to turn those ovens back on and start baking again. On this show today, I'm going to show you one of my fall favorites, pumpkin pie. This pie has a perfect blend of sugar and spices with a flaky, buttery crust. And also stick around and I'll show you how to make an easy and delicious whipped cream topping. So join me on this episode of Melody Makes It Homemade. All right, so let's get started with that flaky, buttery crust. All right, in this bowl here, I've got 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And we've got 6 tablespoons of ice cold butter and 1 tablespoon of shortening. Now we're gonna smash our butter and shortening into our flour, make a nice little crumble here. And we don't need to add salt because I'm using salted butter. And yes, I'm old-fashioned and I like to use my fork. But you can use your pastry cutter or your food processor, whatever you like to do. Okay, and here's your butters nice and crumbly into your flour there, and we're ready to add our water, ice cold water. We're gonna do about 3 to 5 tablespoons, but we're gonna do a little at a time. We're just gonna kind of eyeball it. Start a little generous there. Holding the ice back because you don't want that in your pie crust. Just softly stir it around. See, it starts to ball up a little bit, and I like to get a little feel for it. And it needs a little bit more. I might do it. Okay, we're gonna start to roll it into a ball, and it's starting to stick together. Slightly sticky, but not too much. You don't want it sticking to your hand completely. Just when you know your dough is gonna roll out nice and perfect. Okay, put this to the side. I'm gonna grab my wax paper because I like to use wax paper. You can use parchment paper, and we'll put a little bit of flour. You can even use your countertop if you like, but this is for an easy flip. Okay, let's smash it out. A little bit of flour. Press it out. I'm gonna move him a little bit in the middle. So when I roll him out, he's gonna be on top of my wax paper. Okay. All right, here we go. We're gonna roll this baby out. No perfect way to do this. You just wanna get a nice, somewhat circle here. And by the way, I turned my oven on 425 because I'm going to partially bake it for about 10 minutes. Normally when you do a custard pie, you want to partially bake the crust a little bit because the bottom can tend to be a little soggy if you don't partially bake it or blind bake it. But you can skip that step if you prefer not to do that. Okay, so there we go. I'm gonna just check the size of my pie pan, see if he's gonna be fine when I toss him in there, and yes, he is. So here we go. I just throw it on top of there like that. Some people like to roll their doughs up on their rolling pin, but I just find it easier. And we just gotta move it around a little bit just to get it in there really good. Little flour here where it might be a little buttery. Okay, we're going to start to kind of turn the dough under a little bit around the edges. Okay, now we got our crust on here nice and the edges are nicely done. I'm going to come over here and just kind of start to flute it for you. Put your 2 fingers down, press firmly, not too firm. You're going to get your thumb and then just push up. We're gonna do this all around the pie and use this back finger to kind of hold it in place. And you can, since I'm gonna partially bake it, I'm just gonna put it right into the oven. You don't have to put it in the refrigerator. But first, we gotta poke some holes in it to let out some of that air. All right, and now we're gonna put this in the oven for 10 minutes. Okay, so my pie shell has partially baked for 10 minutes. We're gonna let it sit, and we're gonna start with that pumpkin pie filling. We're gonna add 2 eggs to our bowl. Beat these eggs up really good. Okay, and now we're gonna add 1 cup of our granulated sugar. And if you're watching your sugar and you would like this recipe to be sugar-free, I highly recommend monk fruit sweetener that I've been using in some of my recipes. It's a great alternative, and it would be the same amount as 1 cup. You'd use 1 cup of the sweetener. Half teaspoon of nutmeg, half teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves, and I've got 1½ cups of pumpkin puree. All right, we're gonna mix this around. It's smelling so good. It's smelling like fall, y'all. Okay, and we're gonna add 1½ cups of evaporated milk, or a 15-ounce can. Just gonna kind of do it slowly. Pour the rest of that in there. Okay, and now we're gonna pour this into our pie pan. And it's gonna go in the oven at 450 for 15 minutes. And you're gonna turn your oven back down to 325 for the other 45 minutes. Okay, so now I got my pie filling, and we're gonna pour it right into our crust. Looks great. Okay, now this is gonna go in the oven at 450 for 15 minutes, and for the next 45 minutes, you'll turn your ovens down to 325. Okay, so I just dropped the oven down to 325, and it's gonna bake for 45 more minutes. And while we're waiting for that, we're gonna do our whipped topping. So let's start, and it's easy, so easy. And we're gonna start with 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. And 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. Or if you wanna make the sugar free, you can use your alternative monk fruit sweetener like I showed you earlier, and it tastes delicious, trust me. And some people would like to add vanilla, but I prefer the cream flavor, so I don't add vanilla to my whipped cream. So we're gonna just whip this baby up and we'll be done. Okay, and that is looking perfect. And now we're gonna spoon it into my piping bag here. You don't mind if I taste, right? Delicious. Okay, so now we're gonna put this back in the refrigerator, and we're gonna wait for that pie to finish. And then we'll bring it out and we'll top it with our beautiful whipped cream, and we'll be right back. Okay, our pie is ready and it's cooled down. It's ready to be sliced, but I wanted to show you a quick tip really quick. If you think your crust is browning too much, you can just cut a piece of foil, place it under your pie pan, and then cut around the edges of the pie pan a little larger than the size of the pie itself. And then cut the middle out, and you're gonna place it right there on your pie, and the problem is solved. And it'll stop the browning. All right, we're ready to slice this pie. I already tell it's nice and creamy. I can feel the crust. Nice and flaky. Just want to make sure it's cut really good, because I did bake the bottom. Yay! Oh, and there's my dog. He's ready for a piece too. He's looking for crumbs. nice and creamy. You see that crust is nice and flaky coming off there. And don't forget that beautiful whipped cream that we made. We'll put a nice dollop of that on there. Oh yeah, perfect. And now for the taste. Let's get some of that whipped cream on there. See that crust on the bottom? It's browned. That's because you pre-baked it. Here we go. Going in for the bite. That's perfect. That is tasty, y'all. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Melody Makes a Homemade. I really enjoy bringing these recipes to you, so please continue to join me because I have a lot more recipes coming your way. So hit that subscribe button, it's free, and you'll be notified when my new shows are posted. Goodbye for now.